Oh, I do have a pair of Crocs behind the console.
Hi there, my name's Chris, and in this video I talk with Jay and Ian Pellicci of the Brothers Chinese Recording in Oakland, California. I actually sat down with Jay and Ian months ago to talk about music and life, but I've recently moved house and I'm still setting things up. I am dangerously close to the 1,000 subscriber threshold, so if you could just subscribe, that'd be fantastic. And if you enjoy Jay and Ian's personality like I do and want to work with them, you can find their details in the description box below. Final jump cut. Without further ado, here's my interview with Jay and Ian of the Brothers Chinese Recording.
I'm Jay. This is Ian Pellicci.
We're brothers. That's our role as brothers, and I guess per the name. And
we're both recording engineers, mixers. Yep.
What services does the Brothers Chinese Recording offer?
kind of the expected studio services of recording, overdubs, mixing. I would not say we do mastering.
Nice.
Not for me, at least. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Is there a story behind the name of the studio?
We're both bad at naming things, but we're like, extremely maybe unfortunately, very literal people. And so,
and Jay had suggested something really simple like Brothers Korean barbecue. This Korean barbecue.
Yeah, because there's a place I pass by on the bus sometimes out in the inner Richmond that's called Brothers Korean Barbecue, and so I was like, it's really simple, kind of like that, and then
it's like, oh, like Brothers Chinese Recording,
right?
Like, oh, okay.
I thought it was really funny.
Yeah,
so
yeah, we thought,
I don't know.
yeah.
I mean, I guess thought it was funny enough to just keep it.
I love it. I think I know the answer to this question, but do I ask? I don't know if I'm supposed to ask. Yeah, okay. Perfect.
And I gotta say, it was against several people's advice. This is the live room. This is where we do full band tracking.
Yeah, and then and so usually if it's like a rock band and that basic or any instrumentation that's like drums, bass, guitars ish, then drummers here. Then usually if there's amps, they're all in other rooms, but everybody's
squeezing amps in every other instrument, any place that we can get them.
Yeah, and then everybody can actually physically be in the same spot while having some isolation.
Here's our piano. It's a 1923 Steinway M.
It does piano things.
It has all the keys.
Piano-y.
Yeah. All the strings are there and
that piano-y tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look at it and you're like, that's a piano. These gobos, the one in this corner and this one, the orangish ones, those ones came from RCA Studios, apparently. Some so funny story, I guess it's not really funny, but the main engineer at Pixar used to work at RCA Studios back in New York, and he was here for a session, and he walked in and he's like, those are from RCA Studios.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy
immediately, shit. Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Yeah, and then
small world.
and then it's like, oh, these are from Sony in New York. And then,
yeah, because one of our other friends went to there's a studio closing in
the Sony studio.
Yeah, and so they got a truck and went out to New York and picked up a bunch of stuff, and so some of that were all these gobos, and so we got them for a steal. I mean, they were built in house, I think. I'm pretty sure at Sony.
Yeah, they look their age, but they're built super well.
Yeah, totally. The owner of this building is Thomas McElroy, who's the dude that produced, maybe most notably for most people would be En Vogue, and then but also Tony and a bunch of other stuff that I am not aware of, but big stuff though, And so I think he bought this building originally, and then this room and that room he built, and I think my understanding is it was used as a demo studio, and then I think at some point when enough money came in from whatever projects, he built another studio across the building.
I heard it was the En Vogue contract that
really,
yeah, they got they got the contract and then they got a big chunk of money, then built the studio.
Yeah. So then,
How cool is that?
so they have a studio over there, but I guess before this was just a warehouse that he found and built this in it, and then started building other shit in it. And so then, so when they moved into that studio, our old studio partners had rented this place from him, and then built out that room out there.
The live room.
The live room.
Some ISOs.
Yeah, and so then they took over the space.
I think it was like 2004 or 2003.
Yeah, it was like probably
Yeah.
like 20 years ago or something like that. And then I would do sessions here on odd occasion, and I worked at another studio in San Francisco. And then, or we both did. And then, like maybe 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago now. Damn,
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
We partnered up with the people that ran this place, and then slowly one person bailed out, like wanted to leave the partnership, and then unfortunately our other studio partner passed away from cancer, and that was maybe
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then when it was the two of us left, we're like, well, it's just both of us now, and
then we of course made the possibly terrible choice of landing on Brothers Chinese recordings.
but we've been in this space for about 10 years.
Wow.
And and it's been Brothers Chinese for about 2 years now.
This is well, what do we call this? Just ISO. We have a Wurlitzer in the Rhodes. It's really useful because it's also just right next to the control room, so you can have keyboard overdubs or even just doing a vocal track, and they walk out here, do their vocals, walk back in the room, and it's like the workflow is really nice.
It's also cozy, it's like not too. It's not small, but it's not like. But you feel like
Yeah, you can nest in here.
And also a lot of times this space gets used if somebody wants to record acoustic guitar live with like a drummer, then they can be in here and have there is a little bit of bleed, but it's like almost non-existent. So so it works out really well for those kinds of things. You can accommodate a lot of different stuff. Grew up for the most part in the suburbs out in Fremont, and
maybe 1988. Our parents got cable.
Yeah. So we had MTV, and at the time, a lot of not good bands were popular, but we were super into but one of them was Guns N' Roses, and that was when Appetite for Destruction came out, and we were so fucking pumped on that.
Yeah.
It was yeah. It's funny. And so that was before we played an instrument. I think I was in 5th grade or something like that. And it was just I don't know. I guess it was just an album that really stuck to me, And I don't think our parents started kind of letting us play instruments because I wanted to play drums. So obviously it's a problem because of noise. So I think I was 14 when my parents first let me or got me a 2-piece drum kit, and we started. And he had been playing guitar for maybe 6 months or a year before. Something like that.
Yeah.
Then one of our old friends had been playing guitar for a few years, so he was none of us were good, but he was the best out of all of us because he could actually kind of play his instrument, So we would just
he had lessons.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we just I met another friend in high school that year, and all of us kind of wanted to play music, so we kind of sort of learned how to play music together. Did a few years of community college, and that's it. But kind of the whole time while we were in school, we knew that all we wanted to do was either play music or record music. And so at some point we're like, why are we going to spend a lot of money on college if it's going to actually do exactly nothing for what we want to do, So we just kind of bailed on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also at least getting me to focus on something that I'm not totally into. Just, oh my God, it's not going to happen. My brain's nope,
not
shut down.
4 years of
that,
for better or for worse, no motivation.
So you didn't go to school for this. Did you? How did you come up and start learning more about recording, more about your instruments and stuff like that?
God, kind of just the hard way of we didn't really have any sort of. I wish we did, but we didn't have any sort of mentor or teacher for either music or recording.
And we had people that helped us along the way, but nothing that we It was a difference of So there was a guy that was the first studio that we really interned at long term, and his name was Tom Carr, and he was the head engineer there. And so, if I was to name anybody, he would be the one. But it was still not like we were really young when we were interning there. Like I was 18,
I was 16,
and so like we're not really the people you want to bring into a session, like awkward teenagers that have no self-awareness
or etiquette or tact.
Yeah. So like on sessions, and so because of that, we never actually got to sit in a lot of sessions. But we would at that studio. What was great was that we were allowed to part of the intern hours went towards studio time. So we would bring our instruments and learn to record ourselves, and that's kind of how we learned. And then he would come in sometimes and just like look at something and just kind of make a comment that was
that's interesting.
And he would listen to stuff and he would offer critique sometimes if I gave him stuff, and it was very informative.
This is a dead room because it's acoustically dead. It's a small space, so it also serves as storage. And
we use this room a lot for like a band with a lot of amps, and usually we'll put like 2-3 guitar amps in here with baffles, and it's a good environment for that. I personally like to do like have people record vocals in this room, more acoustic guitar, those kinds of things.
Yeah, especially if it's like quiet acoustic.
Yeah,
quiet acoustic anything.
Yeah, and this room is usually what ends up being used for it.
Yeah, have a few amps. Like it's not stacked to the gills, but like our friend Gary has kindly loaned this to us, the Ampeg V4 classic bass amp, and we don't need to outfit a band, but just have something that that provides some options and some tonal options or just functional options.
Yeah, it's at least so if you're like a 3 or 4 piece band, if you don't want to bring anything, you don't have to, and we actually have enough stuff for you just to start playing.
Our friend Olivia from There's Talk helped us organize this to be more photogenic with the pedals. So thank you, Olivia.
How is it running a studio with family? Is there pros to it? There's cons to it, or
it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people have good relationships with their siblings, but also I know a lot of people are like have weird and different relationships or adversarial or whatever. But like we're best friends, so like 99% of the time it's really easy, and then I would say the only time things were really tense was like when we first became partners with this studio. We spearheaded a complete remodel of, not a complete, but like a facelift of this control room. And then we put in, this console isn't ours, but a good friend of ours, Mike, he owns it and he needed a place to park it. And he really generously was like, you can just use the console, just maintain it and let me use it. And it's like, okay, that's pretty easy to do.
We can meet both those.
We meet both terms. And so we spent a lot of time like redoing panels and fabric, and then then doing all the wiring for this, like so pulling, repinning things, putting all this gear in, and so we were so stressed out because like the studio was completely offline. These people just trusted us and to like do something, and we fucking within like 3 days we had this place down to like
it was 48 hours.
Yeah, it was cinder block and like the carpets were ripped up. It was like completely like pulled apart.
It was a complete skeleton. I mean, there was nothing in here at all. I mean, other than the drywall and
and so we knew we were going to rewrap the panels. We didn't have to really rebuild too much of it, but it was like, but like when it was a functioning studio, then all of a sudden you've completely gutted it. You're like, fuck, this is real.
Did we just get in entirely over our heads?
Yeah, and so anyway, so like at the time, obviously nobody's really working, and then we didn't have like a lot of like we didn't really have any money, so we would just like we were building all the supplies off of credit cards and stuff like that. So so that was maybe the only time where we're like so stressed out that we got on each other's nerves all the time. Like we were actually actively like mad at each other a lot of the time.
But we were doing like 16-hour days, 7 days a week for like 7 weeks.
Yeah, no, for sure. We were working
maybe longer than that. Maybe longer.
It was a lot of work, and so, but anyway, so that's like maybe like really the only time where we've had like where we've really butted heads, and it was like not that great. But every studio project we've done ever since, even if it's been stressful, it's been totally chill.
Yeah.
We took some notes from that. We bought this like maybe 15 years ago or 20 years ago, but it's a Neumann U48, and so watch me drop it on the camera. But yeah, it's a classic old microphone. Like they were used. I don't know. You've probably seen like old photos of like Billie Holiday or like Bing Crosby or Frank Sinatra. Like,
Or most notably, probably is the Beatles.
yeah,
Like,
or the Beatles for sure.
Specifically with the U48.
Yeah,
Because the U47 is the one that like everybody's like, oh, U47. We even use it like interchangeably, just as like common.
the only real difference is
terminology.
that like with the U48, this is a red color, and because it's cardioid, which the U47 has, then you switch it and it's a figure eight, and with the 47, it's an omni. That's the only real difference. So functionally, like 99% of the time, you're going to be in this mode, so it's effectively the same
It
microphone.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But
Awesome.
but anyway, yeah. So they're very nice, and we're very fortunate to have one of
Super.
these. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
got it at the right time. Had a
We got a credit card for we got
At
this.
the right time.
Yeah.
Well, it was like we it was right after like not too long after Occupy, and
And the whole financial crash.
so we switched to a credit union. They're like, oh well, we were gonna get a business loan. We're like, well, if you just get a credit card, it'll be like honestly, it's gonna be less work. You'll pay less interest, and I think that it was like only like 7% above prime or whatever it was. It was like a
Something really low. Yeah.
really low, even for a cash advance. So we're like, okay. So we saw this
We're
online.
getting a microphone.
Yeah, exactly.
And then at the time
Let's
also,
max it out. Yeah.
at the time we had we were sharing a small ass studio apartment, and so our rent was like nothing, and we were working a lot, both of us were. So we just like charged it, then paid it off in like 6 months or a year or something like that.
No, that was much longer than that.
Well, only because we bought another one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This is another like fun like historic microphone too. It's just an RCA 44. This thing also you'd see Bing Crosby or Frank Sinatra on these
Mhm.
dudes. Like I think this was made from like between 38 and like 56 or something like that, approximately those years. And if you use both hands, you can feel how heavy this thing is.
Can I hand this to you?
Oh, sure.
I mean, it looks massive, so.
It's probably 8 pounds.
Good lord.
Yeah.
It's like not evenly weighted either.
No,
It's
no,
all on
no.
the body base.
Yeah, no, totally.
Holy cow. I'm gonna hand this back to you. I'm
Yeah,
scared.
no, all good. But
There we go.
yeah, it's a
Thank you.
classic ribbon mic, and obviously it has, or maybe not obviously, but they're known to be pretty dark sounding. They're very rich sounding too. So
How do you guys like to use it typically?
these days I use it mostly for vocals. I mean, I know I've used it for an overhead a couple times, but for most applications, for me, I find it to be a little too dark. But it could just be purely based on, I know other people that use it, and it just really depends on what you want to get out of it.
Used it on upright bass before. Sometimes that can work, but generally it's too low output. It sounds great, but it's a very low output. It's a ribbon mic, so it's just really low output.
Electric guitars too. I've used some electric guitars, and it's kind of like any other ribbon they sound wonderful, and it's maybe a little more fragile than let's say like a Royer or something like that, where if you have something that's pushing out a lot of low end, this won't handle it quite as well as like a Royer will.
What is your thought process when selecting a microphone? What are the things that you actively think about when you go to reach for something over something else?
Usually, just it's like a pairing menu. You just want to find something that complements the source. You have something really like a really bright guitar amp, and maybe you have like a slightly darker mic, or well, I guess actually no, with guitar amps, it's usually just position is the solves everything. But with something like an acoustic instrument, then yeah, that usually comes into play. Like if it's really bright, then you want something on the darker side or maybe slower side. If it's really dark, then the opposite, something that's going to get you there faster before having to turn any EQ knob or do any processing. Just like cool source is, I mean, I'm sure it could be done better by somebody, but like it's like this seems like it's a good capture, you know.
And there's also like practical considerations sometimes, like like for like a drum kit would be the biggest one, where like depending on how tight things are grouped on a drum kit, how close the cymbals are, there's certain mics you might want to use, but you're not going to use because there'll be like, let's say, too much bleed, or things are too tight so you can't fit it where you need it in a good spot to mic it up. Ultimately, what it comes down to is just that like you said, like our decision is based on like we've listened to these group of microphones for a really long time, and so we have like a good mental image of what they sound like on, like, you can kind of like imagine what that mic's going to sound like on source A or B or C or whatever it is. And so it's just like, at first when you're starting, like, you don't have that, so all you can really do is just keep trying things, and eventually you'll build up this library in your brain of how different things sound and how different things interact with each other. I have like my go-to for like just recording a guitar amp or a drum kit, and it doesn't really change unless there's a problem. And that's the other way that you can think about tackling things, is like, does it sound good? Is it working? Great. Is it achieving all the goals? Like, yes. Why change it? But then also like, but if it's not, then obviously you got to fix something, because
Yeah, that's our
Yeah.
job, is to
yeah. So
but yeah, like yeah, exactly like you're saying, like what's the goal? And sometimes the goal is just to get rolling, because time is one of the biggest factors, you know.
like we were saying earlier in the interview, our good friend Mike used to work for Dan Alexander way back, and that's how he bought this console. Is I think
In pieces.
in pieces, and so this was like probably 20 years ago or 15 years ago.
No,
Probably at least 20.
at
Minimum
least
20
20.
years.
At least 20.
Anyway, so he and our friend Gary, who's like a tech, rebuilt this console, and now it's living here. And so anyway, it's really awesome, like 53 series Neve. Everybody will always says, "Oh, well, they're all custom," but this is like, which is true, but this is like kind of extra custom, like, because like, and I don't really give a fuck what custom or not, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they sound amazing regardless. But what makes it custom, more custom, is that these modules here are not in any other console. There's one other console, I think it's
So it's a sister console in
in
Wilco.
Chicago. Yeah, Wilco's
No.
console. It's
Oh,
the same console. It's the loft.
Cheryl Crow, I think, had I think there were three of these, and I think Cheryl Crow had the third one at some point. At least I think that's what Mike said. But yeah, these were custom made for Fox Sports in
Yeah.
LA in 1978.
Yeah. So there's like just weird things that like
these are two physically separate pieces.
like this is built. It's supposed to be one console, but it was delivered in two different frames. And then other things like I don't know of any Neve that has round push button bus switches, and also there's 16.
Light up. Yeah.
And most of the 53 series is an 8 bus.
What albums have had the biggest impact on you as individuals?
Also extreme overlap. This is a super. I think this is a super fun one.
Yeah, like I mean, like I was saying earlier, like Guns N' Roses, before I was playing music, also even before we really started playing music, but like maybe a year before we actually convinced our parents to let us, get instruments and stuff, it was like we got into like Led Zeppelin as teenagers, and then that's when Nirvana's Nevermind came out, and so we got super into that, and it was just like, I mean, there was probably a lot more stuff, but those are the two ones that really are stuck in my brain of like
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin and fucking Nirvana.
Oh yeah, remember it was also the year that the Black Album came out.
Oh yeah, the Metallica one.
Metallica one, and also
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, the whole grunge scene had just started. Like, Man in the Box.
Right.
Yeah.
Alice
Yeah, yeah. That was
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, and that was also the year we were not living at home with our parents, but with our grandparents, and so
Oh man, what a great year for all that music.
Yeah.
so we're just
right.
like, anyway, it was like we probably immersed ourselves in it a little more because of that situation. Maybe, I don't know, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as far as like engineering, producing, stuff like that, Albini was
yeah,
definitely one of the early ones.
yeah, we were obsessed with Steve Albini's recording style for a really long time.
Yeah.
But then also like some things that like as teenagers we'd obsess over would be like that Weezer's Pinkerton album. That album
Of
sounds,
course.
I mean, it's an awesome album, and then also it sounds incredible too. And
Also so distinct.
yeah,
Yeah, such cool sounds. I mean, it's like this. Yeah, you're in the vibe the entire time.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, Nine Inch Nails actually too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess we just kind of like all the production on that album really like agreed with what was going through our teenage brains at the moment. So
Yeah, and that was also, I mean, in terms of production, I mean, that album is a
it's crazy.
masterpiece.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
One record or one producer always led to another, and then yeah, I mean,
But those are the ones at the start that got us like pumped about recording and different kinds of sounds and stuff like that.
and actually got us listening, like intentionally listening.
Yeah, totally,
You know,
totally. Like so, this is our rack of like old Mike Pre's. Yeah, so this is like another thing that our buddy Mike had scored. It's basically like a copy of a Pultec EQ, but it has a couple extra frequency points. But the cool thing is it was built by CBS Recording in London, and so and I think he used to have a pair of these, and he actually sold one of them back to an old CBS
I
engineer.
didn't realize that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but anyway, but it sounds really good, and it also has like most Pultecs or that I don't know Pultecs that I know of have a compressor, and so they also built a compressor in for probably pragmatic reasons or whatever. But so this is like a cool, like unique piece of gear that we have on loan, and then these are just a bunch of Ampex pre's that we have.
Different flavor, you know.
They sound nice.
Some fun filters, passive filters. This engineer, Scott Salter, who was like hugely influential when I started getting into this full time. When we started getting into this full time, he turned us on to these, and I mean, man, he's such a brilliant engineer.
What is the experience like to record at the Brothers Chinese recording?
If it's a repeat client, then it's like, hey, do you have this date? Yeah, okay, cool, whatever. And then like, okay, see you then. But
oh yeah, what are we doing?
yeah. Then it's like 11 p.m. the night before. Hey, what are we doing tomorrow? Okay, cool. But if it's a new client, then like it's working with a new client is always always requires attention, and that's just how it is. You need there's somebody as a stranger, you need to understand what they want out of their recording, what they want out of what the overall goal of the session is. Like if they have a whole band here, are they looking to have a final version of everything, or is it just like we just want to get the feel of the drummer playing to a band, or just the feel of the rhythm section, and then everything else, or do you want to lead with rough mixes? Do you want to what are your goals, and understanding that first. And I don't fancy myself a producer. I do not call myself a producer. In fact, I actively say I'm not. I like finding out what a client wants, and just like trying to help them get to like what are your references? What are you into? How do you picture this thing sounding? And then just try getting there. And that's super fun and super exciting. Yeah, establishing those and like just communication. That's a big one, is just like
and just like figuring out like how much time does any one person or band need is always like it's always a tough one.
Yeah.
And everybody can the more days in a row too, like to a degree, people settle into the studio. I mean,
yeah,
some people are really comfortable playing and don't have a problem, and some people need time to relax and kind of forget that like they're recording. You know what I mean? Like it can be stressful, and so time to settle in is always good.
Yeah.
If it's possible,
Yeah. So yeah, just I don't know. That's a long meandering answer for what to expect.
Yeah.
It's probably a lot of meandering.
You'll get a lot of meandering.
Yeah.
Book an extra day.
Yeah. Or not, depending.
Yeah.
Besides just all the other shit.
More or less standard fare. I would say minus this guy. Yeah, the Terry, that's an EQ. It's just this mastering EQ that Jay got a year or two ago, and
Probably 2 or 3 years ago at this point. But
it's an oddball.
it's a total oddball. But it's marketed more towards like mixing and mastering, more mastering. But I kind of bought it on a whim because like long story short, during the pandemic, I had a different job because I couldn't do this job, and but the lucky thing was that that job paid a good wage, and so I had saved a bunch of money, and I'd like for a minute I had this fantasy of having a little mixing setup in my apartment that was also like where I could at least have some analog gear, and so I was like, and for a long time I was mixing through these guys here, and they're basically like there's a company called EAR, and they do like basically knockoffs of like old vintage gear, but like they sound extremely good. And so I was using this for a long time, but I couldn't afford to buy a pair. We got these for like
To steal.
15 years ago for like a really good, like they weren't cheap, but it's a deal for these. You know, it was like I think
$5K for the pair or something like
five or
that?
6K for the pair, which is like half price.
Yeah.
And so I knew I was never going to spend that money on it. And then this came along, and it's certainly not cheap. It was like $5,000, but it was like, but it's stereo, and
But it's stereo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you
so it's
go.
like
So that's like 2 for 1.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
What are some recent albums or projects that you've worked on that people should check out?
So it's not out yet, but I just finished mixing a record for my friend Mason Lindahl, and it's super good.
I just went to well, I guess it was the album deluxe version release of this band called Curling. Fantastic band. I cannot recommend them enough.
There's a band called Goodnight Texas, and Ian tracked it. I mixed it. Another band that we work with, King Dream, he recorded and I mixed. Other than that would be Caleb Nichols. He's also very prolific, and also for the most part he's been tracking. I've been mixing it. And then there's like a Americana bluegrass band called the Brothers Comatose, and we're actually in the middle of working on a record right now. So they're booking like a few days every month or two just to get tracking done.
It's really hard to pick to like think of who to say, and like I just want to say everybody because like
Right,
they're
yeah.
like, yeah, just so much love for all these people. It's like
Yeah.
yeah, they're awesome, and I'm very excited about all of them.
The studio we entered for at length was a place called the Music Annex, which unfortunately no longer exists. And so when we were at that studio, one of the things we were doing is we'd enter in the tech department, and like, you know, we were just basically like would go and like troubleshoot things before the tech had to go waste his time on other like on that shit. So like so we learned some things there, but while we were there, we helped install like a Neve console they were getting in one of the rooms. They were like one of those studios that had like 4 rooms in the facility.
Yeah, kind of Hyde Street-ish.
Yeah, and so this is this compressor here is actually from that studio, and like so this is like the first time we ever used one of these Neve compressors was at that place, and then we became fond of it, and we didn't really realize the significance of like what this compressor was back then, and then like, you know, maybe 6 years ago, the guy that ended up buying the studio from the other owner was selling things, and this was on the list, and I was like,
Oh
well, like,
man,
like we should probably get this. And so anyway, it's just funny that to have something in our life from like that was, you know,
from the very beginning.
From the beginning, yeah.
What's next for you guys and the Brothers Chinese recording?
Yeah.
Keep working on stuff.
Pay the rent. And,
stay afloat.
Not continue eating and living in homes.
Yeah. Stay housed.
Big goals, really big goals. I mean, there's always a million little things. Like once we scrounge up or save up the money, like some remodeling, doing some acoustic treatments in the main room, and really like just facelifting in all the spaces, really.
Yeah.
Except maybe
no, that room's good. It
Yeah.
just needs a little bit of a refresh, but
a makeover.
Is not functional yet. It like somewhere during the move between over the bridge to here, some shit got dislodged, or I don't know what. So we're just like we need to get a tech in to get it working. It's like I would say like it's not functional enough for a session, but we're excited for it because this is like the machine to have, a 2-inch 16 version of. I mean, 2-inch 20. We had a 2-inch 24 machine before. It was an MTR 90, and they're fine, but it wasn't exciting and it wasn't fun. And this is going to be super exciting and super fun. I mean, just like fun machines to work on because they're built so well, and
it's a scooter,
and and sonically they do
Oh,
something
yeah.
very nice too. And so in these days, like not many people are going to finish a record on 2-inch anyway, and so you might as well. So 16 is more than enough tracks, and if somebody wanted to do a more minimal record, that would still be fun to do all on tape. So I mean, we still have all the tools to make a record 100% analog from start to finish if people want.
Where's the best place for folks to find you guys?
Probably just our website or our Instagram. And their website's just brotherschineserecording.com, and then Instagram's the same handle, just Brothers Chinese Recording.
Mm-hmm. And that is one benefit of the name, is that it wasn't taken.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. Yeah,
Nobody had Brothers Chinese Recording.
Yeah, that
at
domain
all.
was completely free.
Yeah.
Awesome. Are they in sport mode, or are they?
Well, I mean, they have to be left in
you can't leave
easy
them on.
access mode. Yeah.
It's not good for the Crocs to leave them on
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.